He saw the message. He read the first 3 words, and he decided, I'll answer later. He never got the chance. One unread message. That's all it took. It was the kind of night that doesn't ask anything of you. No obligations, no plans, no reason to be anywhere other than exactly where you were. Marcus had been home since 6:30. He'd changed out of his work clothes the moment he walked through the door. One of those small rituals that signals the body to exhale. Sweatpants, old college t-shirt, the kind of socks with the grip dots on the bottom that you'd never admit to owning. He'd eaten something quick. Leftover pasta, reheated unevenly the way microwaves always do, half hot and half still cold in the middle. He'd eaten it standing over the kitchen sink because sitting felt like too much of a commitment. Then he'd migrated to the couch. That couch. If you knew Marcus, you knew the couch. Wide, slightly sunken on the left cushion where he always sat, the TV remote perpetually wedged between the armrest and the back cushion. He'd had it since his first apartment. It was ugly by most standards. He'd never once considered getting rid of it. He sat. The TV was on, but he wasn't really watching it. Some home renovation show. The kind where the couple is always surprised at what the contractor reveals, even though you can tell from the first 5 minutes exactly how it ends. He had it on for the sound more than anything else. Background noise to fill the apartment the way music fills an elevator. The lamp in the corner was on its lowest setting. Outside it had started to rain, not heavily, just enough to hear it against the window. The soft, irregular percussion of a light rain on glass, one of those sounds that, under different circumstances, would have felt cozy. His phone was in his hand. He was doing what most people do in those quiet hours between the end of the day and sleep. Scrolling without intention, no destination, no purpose, just the mechanical movement of a thumb across a screen. A video someone had shared, a photo of food, an argument between strangers he had no connection to, a meme that was almost funny. His eyes were tired, the kind of tired that sits behind your eyes, a dull pressure you keep ignoring because lying down requires decisions too. He thought, I should go to bed soon. He didn't. He kept scrolling. The rain tapped against the window. The TV couple reacted to the reveal with wide eyes and open mouths. And Marcus kept his thumb moving, half present, half gone, the way you can be physically in a room while your mind has left for somewhere undefined. He didn't know that this would be the last message he would ever receive from her. The phone vibrated. Just once. A single pulse, brief and ordinary. The same vibration it made 100 times a day. A text, a notification. Some small digital tap on the shoulder. Marcus glanced at the screen. The name. He saw the name, and something shifted slightly in his chest. Not alarm, nothing like that. Just a small, warm recognition. The way your face changes without you deciding to change it when you see someone you love. It was his mother. She didn't text often at this hour. She went to bed early, always had, the way people do when they've spent decades waking before sunrise. His parents lived 3 hours away, in the house he'd grown up in, the one with the oak tree in the back that he used to climb, and the porch where his father had taught him to play cards. He saw the name. He saw the first 3 words of the preview text that appeared on the lock screen before the message collapsed. I just wanted... That was all the preview showed. He read those 3 words, and he made a decision so small, so automatic, so practiced, that it barely registered as a decision at all. I'll answer in a few minutes. He had things like this with his mother sometimes. Not arguments. They didn't really argue. More like open threads. Conversations that had been paused mid-thought. Questions she'd asked that he hadn't fully answered, things she'd been meaning to say and hadn't found the right moment for. He figured this was probably one of those. He figured she was probably fine. He figured a few minutes wouldn't matter. He set the phone face down on the cushion beside him. Those few minutes would stretch into forever. He didn't mean to let time pass the way it did. That's the thing about distraction. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't tap you on the shoulder and say, "I'm going to steal the next 45 minutes from you." It just fills the space that opens up when you're not paying attention. One thing leads to another, with no visible seams between them. He'd set the phone down, intending to reply in 5 minutes. But the TV show ended, and the next one started automatically. Streaming algorithms are good at that, removing the moment of decision, keeping momentum going. He watched another 10 minutes of something he hadn't chosen and didn't particularly want to watch, but wasn't compelled to stop either. Then someone in his work group chat sent a message about tomorrow's meeting being rescheduled. He replied. Then someone replied to his reply. Then there was a brief volley of logistics. New time, new room, who had the slides? And by the time that settled, another 15 minutes were gone. He thought, "I'll text Mom after this." He picked up the phone. His mother's message was right there, a white bubble waiting. But just above it was a notification from an app. Something in the news, something his thumb accidentally opened while meaning to tap the messages. The article was about a topic he'd been following loosely. He read the first paragraph, then the second. Then he was 5 paragraphs in, and it had somehow led to another article, and then to a comment section where someone was wrong, and then to the exhausted, slightly irritated scroll of someone who knows they should stop but hasn't yet found the off-ramp. His mother's message sat unread, one swipe away, patient the way only an unread message can be. At some point, he wasn't sure exactly when, the room got heavier. The kind of heavy that isn't sadness, just the weight of a body that's been awake too long. His eyes started that slow, involuntary closing and catching that happens in the last few minutes before sleep arrives, whether you invited it or not. He thought, "I'll text her in the morning. She's probably asleep already anyway." He set the phone on the side table. He turned off the lamp. He was asleep within minutes. The rain was still going. The phone screen sat dark. The message stayed unread. The message stayed unread. And so did something else, something she had needed him to know. The light came in sideways through the blinds the way autumn light does, low and pale, hitting the dust in the air and making the ordinary room look almost cinematic. Marcus woke slowly. Not startled, not alert, the gradual surfacing of someone who'd slept deeply but not long enough. He reached for his phone the way most people do now before they're fully awake, an almost involuntary reach. The screen lit up. Notifications, more than usual. He noticed it before he'd fully processed it. The number was off. There were too many. The little badges over the icons were higher than a normal night would generate. Multiple missed calls, several texts. His brain started moving faster than his eyes. He sat up. Missed calls. His father. 3 of them. Logged between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. Missed calls. His aunt. Once at 12:30. A text from his cousin. "Marcus, please call us." The world tilted slightly. He knew, in the way the body knows things before the mind has caught up, that something had changed while he was sleeping. That the night he'd moved through so carelessly, the couch, the TV, the mindless scroll, the gradual drift into sleep, had contained something he hadn't been present for. He opened his mother's message. The full message, not just the 3-word preview. "I just wanted to hear your voice tonight. I love you. Call me when you can. No rush, sweetheart." He read it 3 times. No rush, sweetheart. He sat on the edge of his bed in the pale, sideways light, his phone in both hands now, and read it a 4th time. The message didn't say what he expected. It said something he would replay in his mind for years. He called his father first. It rang 4 times. He counted them without meaning to. Then his father answered. The voice that came through was his father's, but compressed somehow. Smaller, like someone had turned down the volume on a person. His father had always had a full voice, the kind that filled rooms, that laughed loudly at his own jokes, that called from the other side of the house and arrived clearly even through walls. This voice was the same voice but quieter than Marcus had ever heard it. "Dad." That was all Marcus said. Just the word, a question shaped like a name. His father told him. His mother had had a cardiac event sometime in the night. Unexpected. There had been no prior diagnosis, no warning signs that either of them had recognized. She had woken his father at some point after midnight, complaining of discomfort. By the time the paramedics arrived, she was already unconscious. She passed in the early hours of the morning, before the sun came up, in the hospital 3 miles from the house with the oak tree in the back. Marcus sat completely still. The pale morning light was still coming through the blinds. The dust still moved slowly in the air. Outside, a bird was making noise, ordinary, meaningless bird noise, the kind that happens on every morning regardless of what's happened to the people inside. His father's voice was talking, details, logistics, the strange procedural language of grief, and Marcus was hearing it. But it was arriving from a distance, like sound through water. He thought about the vibration of the phone in his hand last night, the name on the screen, the 3 words in the preview, "I just wanted," and his own voice in his own head, "I'll answer in a few minutes." If he had opened it, would anything have been different? He would ask himself this question for a long time. He drove to his parents' house that same morning, 3 hours of highway, mostly in silence. He'd tried music twice and turned it off both times. The radio felt like a wrong note against everything else. He drove with just the road noise, which was better, neutral, consistent, asking nothing of him emotionally. His father met him at the door. They held each other the way men hold each other when they've agreed, for a whole lifetime, to be strong. And then something breaks through that agreement, and they're just 2 people, and strong doesn't mean anything at all. In the days that followed, Marcus found himself returning to the same moment over and over. Not the phone call with his father, not the drive, not the arrangements, the gathering of family, the strange formal machinery of loss that gets set in motion and carries you through whether you feel ready or not. He kept returning to the couch. 9:47 p.m. as the phone log showed when he finally checked. That was when the message arrived. He'd been awake, he'd felt the vibration, he'd seen the name. He'd read 3 words and then set the phone face down and kept watching television. He dissected his own reasoning the way you take apart a clock to understand why it stopped, methodically, looking for the part that failed. He hadn't been ignoring her. That wasn't it. He hadn't been in the middle of anything urgent. He hadn't been in a fight with her or distant or anything other than what they always were to each other. Fine, good, comfortable. The kind of relationship where you don't feel the need to rush because everything between you feels solid and permanent and in no particular danger. That was it, wasn't it? The permanence assumption. The idea, never consciously formed, that people we love exist in a kind of stable state, present, reachable, available, and that the small delays we introduce into our conversations with them are tolerable because they will still be there on the other side of the delay. We don't ignore messages, we ignore moments, and we do it because we've confused the two, because a message looks like a small thing, a blue bubble, a preview of 3 words, and a moment doesn't look like anything at all until after it's gone. He would give anything to hear those 3 words again, not to read them, to hear them in her voice, in person, while there was still time. A few weeks after, Marcus was sitting on his old porch, the one where his father had taught him cards. The oak tree in the back had lost most of its leaves by then, November doing what November does. He was thinking about something his aunt had said at the gathering, something that had landed quietly and stayed. She'd said, "Your mother used to say she could always tell when she was thinking about someone because the thinking felt like a pull, like a nudge. She said she learned to follow it." He thought about that for a long time. His mother had felt a pull that night. "I just wanted to hear your voice, not for any specific reason, not because something was wrong. She didn't know anything was wrong, couldn't have. Just a pull, a nudge, some internal compass pointing toward her son on a rainy Thursday night. And she had followed it. She had picked up the phone and typed the message and sent it. She had done her part, and he had read 3 words and set the phone down. He wasn't punishing himself. He'd worked through that, or was working through it in the slow, non-linear way that grief actually moves. He knew logically that he couldn't have known. That "I'll answer later" is something everyone says, every day, about 100 small things, and almost always later arrives and everything is fine. Almost always. But here is what the experience had quietly, permanently changed in him. He understood now, in a way he hadn't before, that we don't get to know which message matters. We don't get a preview that says, this one is important, this one is ordinary, this one can wait. The messages don't come labeled. The phone doesn't vibrate differently for the ones that carry weight. Your mother's name on the screen looks exactly the same on a Tuesday when she wants to tell you about a TV show she liked as it does on a Thursday when she wanted to hear your voice for the last time. You can't know, which means the only answer, the only one that doesn't require you to know, is to treat each one like it might matter. Not with panic, not with the impossible standard of never putting your phone down. Just with a little less automatic later. Just a little more right now. Some messages are not meant to wait. The trouble is, we never know which ones until it's too late. How many times have we said it? I'll answer later. I'll call tomorrow. I'll visit next week. Things have just been busy. I'll tell them when I see them. They know how I feel. I don't need to say it. We say these things without malice, without neglect, without any awareness that we're making a choice at all, because it doesn't feel like a choice. It feels like a small postponement, a minor administrative delay in a conversation that has a long history and, we assume, a long future. But later is not a place. Later is a promise. And like all promises, it depends on conditions no one controls. It depends on both people being here. It depends on the call going through. It depends on the morning arriving the same as all the other mornings. And most of the time, it does. Most of the time, later comes, and you make the call and everything is fine, and no one ever knows there was a moment where you almost didn't. But sometimes, it doesn't come. Sometimes, the space where later was supposed to live fills in with something else. Something permanent and quiet and impossible to negotiate with. And you're left holding a message that says, I just wanted to hear your voice, reading it over and over on a pale morning with the dust in the air and the bird outside making ordinary noise, wondering what would have happened if you'd just pressed the name. Marcus still has the message. He's read it more times than he can count. He says it changed something fundamental about how he moves through his days. Not dramatically, not in a way that anyone would necessarily notice from the outside. He still gets tired. He still sometimes picks up his phone and sets it down. He's still human, which means imperfect by definition. But before he puts a conversation off now, there's a pause. Just a second. A small question that arrives without words. Is this one that can wait? Sometimes the answer is yes. And sometimes, more often than before, he finds himself pressing the name. Before you close this, before you scroll to whatever's next. Think of someone whose name you've seen on your screen recently. Someone you meant to call back. Someone you've been meaning to text. Someone you keep planning to visit, keep meaning to reach out to, keep telling yourself you'll get to when things slow down. Maybe they sent you something small, something that looked like it could wait. Maybe they just wanted to hear your voice. You still have time, don't wait for later. Later doesn't make promises.